I'm nothing if not a supporter of pro-lotion cinema. Hmm. The lotion stays on during the review. It's what Yorgos would want. Yorgos Lanthimos. I never thought that name would become mainstream in Hollywood. But you know what? The Greek freak has earned it. Because Lanthimos has become one of the most interesting directors of the last decade. From The Lobster to The Killing of the Sacred Deer to his Oscar runs with The Favorite and Poor Things. The guy who gives us the bizarre side of human nature is a known commodity in American movies. And while Bugonia might not be his strangest trip, it's definitely his most modern and most American one to date. Bugonia follows two oddballs, Teddy, played by Jesse Plemons, and his autistic cousin, Don. It seems Teddy has gone down a conspiracy rabbit hole and is convinced that pharma CEO Michelle, played by Emma Stone, is an alien from outer space. So naturally, Teddy has a plan to save the entire planet. He and Don kidnap Michelle and hold her hostage in his basement. He is going to get her to admit that she is an alien, so he can communicate with her species and save Earth. Naturally, Michelle denies all accusations, and soon we have a battle of wits and wills between Michelle and Teddy, and he'll do anything to prove that he is right. The questions arise. Is Teddy just a crazy guy with a human hostage, or is Michelle actually an alien masquerading as a human? Oh my, I'm starting to evaporate. So you would think, oh, what an original idea from Lanthimos. Well, it's actually based on the 2003 Korean movie, Save the Green Planet. But here, Lanthimos and screenwriter Will Tracy updated for our modern conspiracy brain times. The thing about Begonia is Teddy, as the conspiracy nut, and Michelle, as the CEO, are eerily familiar characters. This is Lanthimos not playing in a make-believe or fable world, but in our crazy, messed up real world. Teddy, now living in squalor with his cousin, has experienced pain and heartache throughout his life. His mother was the victim of poisoning by Michelle's pharmaceutical company. Has his resentment transformed into this giant conspiracy about who Michelle really is? Is he just projecting all his hatred and resentment on her with this elaborate story? Well, when we first meet Michelle, she's girl bossing it up at her company. Lanthimos is poking fun not just at our corporate hellscapes, but also at our hyper online lives that create people like Teddy. You would think our end for this story, with two characters who are varying shades of despicable, would make things difficult, but Lanthimos and his screenwriter work overtime to allow empathy for both of these, well, messed up people. And it also helps that Lanthimos has two of his muses in Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons. This is Emma Stone's fourth movie with Lanthimos, and it's safe to say that the two are joined at the hip now. They just speak each other's weird language. Emma Stone at this point can basically do anything. Not just anything she wants because she rules Hollywood, but she can do anything on screen. And as Michelle, she constantly pushes and pulls us with this character who on her face is just another woke cosplayer who wants the illusion of doing social good. But as the screws tighten on her from her captors, Michelle not only gets into the characters' heads, she gets into our heads. Because we start developing a little sympathy for her. And Stone is so great at weaponizing her natural kind of vulnerability and her physicality. Likewise, Plemons, who is known for playing weirdos, well, he has a handle on this guy as sort of a tragic figure. Yes, he's kind of dim, yes, he's kind of bumbling, but he's so certain and righteous. And well, we're kind of on his side when he's so convinced that he can save the planet. Is he just a rube who's easy to manipulate with online conspiracies and thus easy for Michelle to manipulate? As the film goes on, it doesn't become that simple. And Lanthimos plays on our preconceived ideas of him as a director and these actors to constantly keep us guessing. But where it hits on its satire better than, say, something like Ari Aster's Eddington is that it doesn't go too broad or full comic tilt with its premise. That is until the end, which will be the most divisive part of this movie. And that for me, this is the type of film that wants to be so unpredictable and that constantly has us going back and forth about what's going on that in a sense, it becomes kind of predictable. The repetition of the dialogue between Teddy and Michelle, Lanthimos' penchant for shocking violence that interrupts certain scenes, and certain oddball tendencies of Lanthimos' movies that seem to be based in reality. Think The Killing of a Sacred Deer or Kinds of Kindness, both which play in surreality and fantasy and broader aspects of comic satire. In all those ways, the end of this film didn't surprise me because it was surprising, if that makes sense. But while the ending is very Lanthimos, it definitely diminishes the satirical points the film has been making up until then, rather than strengthening them, which ultimately leaves the film feeling a little like an elaborate joke. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I think the Lanthimos is kind of a trickster at heart, but it does make me conflicted about what the larger socio-political point is, especially when you have characters who are extreme ends of two very 2025 types of people. That being said, the end of this movie definitely goes for it, and I do appreciate the bleakness of it all. Lanthimos at times can seem like he's having a joke at our expense, but he really does want to invite his audiences along with his strange sense of humor. And while this might be his least successful outing with Emma Stone and his least successful American outing, there's no denying that Lanthimos, as a voice of satire, as a voice of comedy, as a voice for filmic good, is just too singular to ignore anytime he takes us on one of his bizarre rides. Bugonia is definitely Yorgos Lanthimos going full tilt in premise, with two full tilt performances by the always exceptional Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons. The film is more effective as a guessing game chamber piece than an actual piece of satire, but this is another bizarre and unique experience from Yorgos Lanthimos that, if it isn't entirely successful, is still one of the more interesting movies of the year. I give Bugonia a respectable 3.5 stars out of 5. If you like this review, please like and subscribe or follow me on Letterboxd at RamirezS316. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must continue applying my lotion.